talking about cool stuff, we should probably jump into the next segment, which is the Polyend Tracker. I just thought I'd quickly mention while we're talking about cables at the back. There's cables at the back, just like everything else. So I just thought I'd mention that while we're talking about it. Anyway, let's get stuck into this now. I want to give a little disclaimer. I'm not the best person at demoing products, so if you want to see a really good demonstration and overview of this, go check out Ziv's video, Loopop. There's also another good one on the Polyend website. They've actually split them all up into different segments as well. This is really just us playing around with it live, and I guess that's kind of the cool thing about it. But before we do anything, I thought we'd share with you the peeling of the LCD screen plastic, because everyone loves that. That's just such an amazing feeling. That when you do that, you kind of know.
I'm still on the MPC.
No, I'll take them off.
I haven't taken it off yet.
I'll take them off. It actually, wow, the screen actually looks better with it off. That's actually really nice. Now, I'll tell you a couple of things about this. Okay, so it's a sturdy metal enclosure. Polyend this is my first Polyend product, but from what I've been told, Polyend make really nice gear. Now, it's quite slim. Like, it's very, very slim. So we're talking, you can actually see the thickness there. It's
Can you show it from the side?
Not even like a finger.
Oh, it's flat. Okay.
It's very, very
because
flat.
I was thinking about the things with the cables on the back. Those which are raised, they always place the cables in the top instead of in the bottom, which would be smart when placing them in racks and such.
Yeah. So this wouldn't be a problem because it's lower down. Yeah, okay. One of the things I love about this is the screen. And you'll notice that it's a little bit dusty there, but you can still see it on you can actually still read that screen on different angles, right? And that's actually a really, really cool thing. So the screen is an LCD TFT display, so nothing fancy, but they have got a decent display there. If you're wondering, it's actually 800 by 480 pixels if you're in the computer geek land. Now the front panel, obviously the screen plays a big part in this, but what you'll like about this is all these keys are all mechanical. Let's just turn it off for a sec. So they're like a keyboard from a computer. They're quite mechanical sounding, and they've got that sort of Amiga, Atari sort of tactile feel about them, and that's actually really cool. All of the keys do that. Another thing you'll notice is this grid here with pads. These are silicon type pads. Now, when you use these, they're not velocity sensitive. They're just literally just a note on, note off type affair, and you use it to trigger things as well. And then there's this big jog wheel. Now, it actually makes a lot of sense that this jog wheel is big because you get that fine motor control and you get that quick, if you need to move things quick. So it's actually good that it's a big jog wheel. I think they've done quite a good job here of designing this. I actually feel it's quite well designed. And, haven't really sort of got to the point where I can sort of criticize it yet because I'm still kind of learning it. But while we're talking about it, let's have a look at the back. So the cables connections on the back, upside down, starting from this side, you have got line out, line in, mic in, MIDI in and out, and you've got the micro SD card slot there. There's a little secret reset thing that you might need to use if you get in trouble with firmware updates. That's your USB-C and that's your power switch. Now the USB-C, this is what some people will like, is only 5 volts, 1 amp. So you can actually power this off a mobile phone, or you can power it off one of those little battery bricks that you can get off your USB. So this can be completely portable, and it doesn't draw a lot of power either. It's actually quite light in terms of how much power it takes. You guys can do the math. 1 amp. I don't even think it needs 1 amp. It probably only needs about half an amp. And that would last quite a long time on those fairly decent sized battery bricks that you can get. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so no internal battery, just making that clear. All right, so layout of the land. You've got basically, these are all your sort of your menus really. So there's really kind of not really menu diving in this at all. It's literally just you're going to kind of instrument parameters and everything's here. Now, to sort of kind of work this, you can't touch the screen. It's not a touch screen, which has some people sort of thinking, oh, it should be a touch screen. But if I want to change anything, it's basically, these are your kind of column actuators for what's on the screen. So if I want to look at volume, I hit that, and then I use the jog wheel to change the volume, right? So that's kind of how that works. Now, while we're in instrument tools, some screens have multiple pages. So you can see there just by hitting it, it toggles between the two. And then when you want to change to different things, like you might want to look at, you know, envelopes and things like that, you've got access to all that in there. So you've got things like volume control, tuning, panning, filters, e.g. You can see it all there, right? And this comes in handy when you're mucking around with some of its synth sound features, which are granular and wavetable synths, and also samples as well. So this does come in handy, and we'll talk about instruments a bit later, but that's your instrument automation and your parameters section there. So that's pretty cool. Now, let's go into the next section, which really is the big part of this. It's the sampling side. And Andy, I'm going to show you the track a bit in a minute, because I know you're keen to see that and how convoluted it is. But what we need to do first, I think we need to look at the sample side. Now, just to let you guys know, the samples part of it is 16-bit, 44.1 kilohertz. And I think you can record up to 2 minutes of using the recorder. And I'll show that in a sec. Options to play samples, one shot, forward, back, and ping pong. So if I go in and load, I think the last project's in here, isn't it? Yeah, cool. All right. So, and if I change the instrument. Now I went in before and I recorded with this microphone, me saying booger, and it should work.
Why would you say booger? Was it annoying you?
Right. So there's the basic thing. It was annoying me, yes. Go into sample editor, and there's me saying booger. Right. This is actually pretty cool. These are kind of like destructive effects that you can change on your sample. So you can change, you can reverse it, crop it, delay it, crunch it. This is actually really, really cool, and there's more below. So there's quite a lot of cool stuff in here, right? Fading in, fading out, that sort of stuff's in there. I've already cropped that sample. I'll actually go in and show you guys how to make a recording in a sec. You guys can muck around with that.
So that's kind of an undo.
Sorry.
Is there an undo? You say it's destructive.
Yes.
So if you do something wrong.
So that part,
yes.
Once you do it, there's no undo for that. But there's a lot of undo in a lot of the other areas of this. So you'll see that in a sec. Okay. So remembering, if you're applying some of these things, you're actually saying, no, I want to normalize this. And the other thing you can do too is you can always keep a copy of the original sample as well. Next is there's a slicer. I should talk about the slicer. There's two features of the slicer. It's auto and manual. Nothing really sort of to talk about there. The sample editor we're in now. You can muck around with these effects if you want to. So one thing you should know about this sort of tracker samplers is if you're kind of putting stuff into your tracks, one of the things is you probably want to have it as prepared as much as possible otherwise you're kind of having to sort of rely on the DSP of the unit to do things like effects and that. So like, for example, you may want to have a chord, instead of it playing a chord for you, which it can do, you may actually want to sample the chord being played and have that as a sample. That's kind of the sort of theory behind trackers. It's kind of preparing sounds in a different way. It does make you think about things differently. Now, I did mention before the sample recorder. So sample playback, I mentioned before about one shot, forward loop, ping pong. There's your slicing there. And Wavetable and Granular will go through it in a minute, okay? But there's your playback there. Now, sample recorder. So line in. So I do have line in. I can go to me. So what we've got here is the trusty acoustic guitar and the old Novation vinyl back. I've got to chuck this in so I can get some sort of, it's got a little pickup in it. Sorry about that. You guys should be able to hear this now if I play. Is that coming through? So I can sample that now by hitting record. And stop. I can record up to, like I said before, 2 minutes of this. I'm just going to take that out. And we can muck around with that. Sorry, I just need to put my guitar back down. Otherwise, we can now muck around with the sample as we're doing it. So we can start point, end point. It kind of worked it out from the start as well. The end point, and you can listen to it. So it's pretty cool. So, excuse me. So it will sample as mono. Let's just call this guitar. It's like using a keyboard, this thing. It's like this. So note G, U, I, T, A, R. And then a space is down here. And then you can put C space. Was it a C major? I think it was a C major that I played. That'll do. All right, and click save. Done. So I've saved that now. Now that's in the system, and I'll be able to actually go into my sample editor, and that's my booger. So I need to change that. Now we need to load.
Change the picture.
Oh, sorry.
You're showing yourself.
Good point. Sorry, I was showing everything wrong. Where were we? Sample editor. Let's get the recordings, and there's my guitar, and then I'm going to add that to there. All right, now if we go to sample editor, there's my guitar. Right, so now I can actually play with the start point of this, the end point of this. Right, then I can play any of those effects there. But what I can also do is I can also, so let's crop this. That's the effect I want. And apply it. There we go. Now, I can also go into the, where is it? The sample playback. And then we can look at Wavetable. And so there's your Wavetable. All right, so there's Wavetable. And then granular is this one. So what you do with granular is you set yourself a position. Let's say we want it there, and let's say we want to give it a little. Good, there we go. And you can do forward, backward, ping-ponging. So there's your granular. Now, granular is a single grain, okay? So it is pretty basic in terms of that side, but that is actually pretty cool fun, just mucking around with that. I love the user interface on that too. It's actually really, really cool. All right, let's get to the next section, which what I'll do is I'll do another recording. I'll use this microphone, which is out of the micro Korg, right? Because you guys didn't see it when I recorded. Sorry, because I forgot to change the camera. So you just change it to line in 1, 2, 3, high gain, low gain. Let's try high gain. Okay. So what do you guys want me to say? Happy New Year or something? Tell me what you want to say.
Crikey.
All right, we'll do crikey. Crikey. Okay, so there's the recording, and then you can crikey. So you can change the endpoint on that. Crikey.
Can you normalize that sample? Can you get its level? So because you've got only a tiny amount there, haven't you?
You can. So once you've done that, you can save it. We'll just call it crikey. You've got to kind of get it in first. Is it I? A?
But can you really normalize that word?
Oh yeah, so sample loader.
Depends where in the world you live, Henrik.
Yeah.
No.
Crikey.
Add. All right, now sample editor. Right, so there we go. So we want to change this to Right, now let's get the normalizer. You guys want a normalizer? And you can select level. Okay, let's do 90% preview.
Crikey.
See, that's how you can preview your normalizer.
Crikey.
Let's probably do it.
Crikey. Crikey. Crikey.
Let's do it at that. There you go.
Crikey.
And then now we want to crop it.
Oh,
So let's apply the crop. And there's the undo.
No, it doesn't, Mark.
So there's the undo. There's the undo there. Right? You're asking about undo? There it is. I said I was going to show you it later. All right, so that's done. Apply, done. We can apply some delays. Let's try that. Crikey. So that's kind of the sort of stuff you would do there. Go back. Let's look at
Beat Crush.
time stretch beat. Let's try that.
Crikey.
So obviously you can muck around with the granules and steps and stuff like that in there. So let's increase the steps. Let's reduce the granules.
Crikey.
So you can have some fun. Like seriously, you could just sound design tool. Don't forget too, this saves everything as a WAV file onto an SD card. So even if you're not using this as a tracker, you could use this as a little sample mangling device too. It's got some really, really cool algorithms in there. Anyway, that's that. Okay, so what's the most important part of this whole thing is the pattern editor. And this is what it looks like. You guys have probably seen videos of this already. This is what Andrew's worried about.
Pear-shaped.
Okay, Andrew's worried about this. So it's really, really easy.
Programming hex.
It's really, really easy, right? So the first column is your note, and that's C5, right? The second column is the instrument sample, and there's your instruments there. So you can see 1 is an 808 kick. 4 is a 808 hi-hat closed, okay? So that's what that column is there. So that B5 is a hat, that C5 is a bass drum kick. There's nothing to it than that. And if you just want to show just the notes, you can hold down pattern and just show the notes, right? And double click on pattern and brings it back to there. The other 2 columns are effects lanes. So, and there's sends, there's whole bunch of effects, and I'll show you that now, because if you go into this one here and I click on effects 2 and then hold it down, you can see that's panning, right? So that's a panning effect. Now if I go down, it's actually really intuitive how to use this. If I go to effects 1, see how there's 2 effects lanes and there's 2 effects buttons here. It's really easy. So if I go to effects 1, this should be a roll, and it's roll once. Okay, and there's the preview of that there. And you can change the roll. See that? Make sure I had to put it in record mode to do that. So that is basically all it is there. That's really not hard to understand in terms of, it's actually quite visually important once you work that out. There's 8 tracks across that you can play with. Now these tracks can be samples or MIDI. Okay, MIDI instruments are below. Okay, there's your MIDI instruments there. So MIDI channel 1 to 16 down the bottom. But you've got 50.
What commands do you have for the MIDI? I mean, you showed the effects before, but what do you have on MIDI?
We'll go into MIDI a bit later because I haven't actually had a chance to really get stuck into it. But I mean, obviously, you can sequence notes, you can sequence velocity, you can do program changes and that sort of stuff, as far as I know.
But
and
perhaps you can do. Perhaps you can do delays too. I mean, if you wanted a delay on a drum before, you repeated it 16 times and changed the velocity to make it sound like a delay. Perhaps you can do the same here with MIDI.
I probably could. I don't actually have anything connected up to MIDI at the moment though, so I haven't got that prepared. Maybe I can do that on another stream. Because there's just so much to go through just in this, and I don't want to go through it all either, because honestly, it's an abyss how deep this thing can get. This is really just a quick overview for you guys. So, like I said before, if you just wanted to see what instruments are being played, you can just hold down pattern. It will show you what tracks are playing what instruments, notes showing what notes are played, what effects on effects 1 and effects 2, and double click shows you an overview. There's that. Now, I can do a little quick example of this track that I prepared earlier. This is absolutely cheesy crap. What I can tell you, there's an 808 kick. There is a emulator which Jean-Michel Jarre used in Zuluk album, and there's me saying booger. Ready, set, go. Now that's really loud. So we need to go into here and turn the master volume down. So obviously while you're playing that, you might think to yourself, well, that's cool, I like that. And I don't, by the way. I think it's crap. But I might want to...
I was about to say, oh, I got to get that one.
I might want to mute some of the tracks because I don't like the sound of the arpeggiator that I made. And you can do that. There's my booger. So you can mute tracks. So that's got all those performance options there as well. I'll go into that in a little bit because it was a good little sort of segue to do that. But I just thought I'll quickly show that. So you can see it's really easy to get around things. And that's one of the things I like about this. It's monkey see, monkey do, pretty much. You do get used to using the cursor keys, the jog wheel. It really does bring me back to the days of using an Amiga. Now, I will bump out of this because this is just one pattern. And I'll go into File. What we're going to do is open a project. So what you're seeing now is the file manager. So let's go into, I don't know. What should we do? Do Richard Devine? Let's choose his. So click open. Just in case. Yeah, save it. Yes, overwrite. Good. Did it load? Richard Devine. Okay, here we go. So this is obviously a pre-loaded thing. The reason why I want to show you this is because this has got song mode arrangements and everything. I want to show you that side of it. Now, while we were talking about patterns, okay, if you want to change patterns, it's literally you hold down the pattern and just change the jog wheel, and you've got all these patterns here, right? Now, song
may I
mode.
ask something?
Yeah, go for it.
You loaded a song.
Yeah.
Can you control that from MIDI? I mean, a program change to load a special song?
Don't think you can get it to load a song. There was a fair bit in the user manual that did list a whole bunch of stuff about what MIDI it can do. MIDI with input and output implementation controls are available. Clock in, internal USB MIDI in jack. Clock out, transport in, transport out. Notes, CC input off, USB. So you've got CC 41 to 48 performance, CC 51 to 62 performance, FX slots. So it's controlling the FX stuff. So in this performance mode, which is here, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can actually control with MIDI CC. That's what they're saying there.
It's because if you're doing a live gig and you have 10 units where you need to load something on, you will have big breaks between songs. So
yeah,
it
maybe
would be smart if that
maybe they've got something in the pipeline. They've just done a firmware update on this, so they probably might have another one coming. I actually don't know if that feature is in here or not, so that's something that we can flag to check into. Anyway, I do want to show you the song mode because, Andy, this is kind of what this is a view of all your patterns, right? So this is basically like, right, I'm going to play pattern 1, track 2. So you can actually select individual tracks for each pattern. You don't actually have to play all your tracks. You might have that's like a way of muting. Then this will then scroll down.
Isn't it how many times it repeats?
You can do that as well.
You have the patterns at the left.
Yep, you can do that as well. So let's just show you this how it works anyway. And so let's go into config. I just want to take clock. Okay, we should be okay. Song, play. So it's like an arranger, this section, right? And you can go down and play that part there. Stop, loop. There was a whole bunch of features there, so that one we might want to play that part.
So the number pattern, that's a combination of the patterns.
Yes.
Yes.
So see how that's looping now? It's just going to keep looping until I say continue song, and then it will continue on from there. So it's like a little, in a way, it's kind of like a little performance section as well. So, and you've got all that, this is kind of like, you know, like your grid of all your slots and your patterns, okay? Then on top of that, you've also got this performance section, which is actually really cool. So go back to playing the song. I can do a whole bunch of stuff in here. Like, for example, I can tune the whole thing and I can select I'm not doing a very good job of this, but these are kind of all your little performance mode stuff when you're actually playing live, which I think is pretty cool. I reckon there should be a heap more in here. There's only one screen, so I reckon future development needs to go into this area. There's, you know, once you're in these things, you can change patterns by holding it down and all sort of stuff in there. Right. Okay. So quick break for that. I need to have 5 seconds to have a drink and have a break. Questions from the chats and questions from you guys so far. How are we going?
I'm not sure what to say. I just think it still, to me, looks really quite complicated. I mean, anything which involves great long lists of numbers, just my brain just goes no and shuts down. Now, I'm sure you've amply demonstrated that it's quite easy to use if you're happy to work with that sort of interface. But see, my question is, will it record in real time? Can I just sit to record and play it on here? Go
Yes, it does.
Record it.
And I haven't shown that yet.
That sort of slightly defeats the object of one of those machines. Surely that the whole point of that is that you're getting away. That is to get away from that. You know, I mean,
kinda. I mean, one of the things that it does when you record real time is it records micro timing, and it also records chords. So, for example, you've got you might be playing a sample, and a sample is a mono sample, but you might want to do a 3-note chord on it. So what it will do is it will spread that sample across 3 tracks. And if you've played it slightly uneven, it'll do micro timing. And that sort of stuff, once it's in, you can then edit it if you want to. And it's kind of cool.
So is each track mono then?
Each track is mono.
You can, at a time?
Each sample is mono, and you can pan it in your stereo sphere.
That's not what I meant. I meant you take a 1-note sample. Can you then play a chord with it? Can you program a chord in, or do you have to have 1 note on track 1, another note on track 2? Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
That seems like a waste of tracks to me.
Well, that's how it works with the samples. So
it's basically only 1 note at a time ever on a track.
In the pattern part, there's only 1 note at a time on each of these tracks. So let's go back to here. Now this, don't think too much about this right now, because right now you're kind of in limbo land thinking, oh, that's a real bummer, because, you know, I can only do, hang on, let's go I can only do 1 note at a time on each one of these tracks. But what you can do is, once you've got your chord with your samples, is you can then, I forget the term, but you can then, you can resample it back to 1 sample, and then that can be then a single point on a track. So it can, what is it called?
Resampling, I suppose.
Yeah, I forget what it's called. Render. You're rendering that. You can render a selection.
Okay.
And then that becomes, so say you like that chord sound. Okay, yep, I'm going to stick with that. Instead of wasting 3 or 4 tracks, depending on how many notes in your chord, you can then render that into 1 track. So that's how you get around that sort of stuff. And that's kind of how trackers have always worked as well. All right, let's go back to, I'll show you live recording and stuff on the pattern thing in a sec, because I think that's definitely something we've got to do next. Chatties, let's go to chatties. Paul's asked, how do you set the count in? Okay, so there's a whole big config section on this, right? And I actually don't know is the answer to that question, but we might be able to find it in here. There's a massive config section in here. So you can see there's project settings, pattern divider, chromatic, general, MIDI, metronome, there we go. Time signature num, time signature denum. I guess that's probably it there. You'd have to kind of work that out.
Pre-roll.
Yeah, pre-roll off.
Is that the counting?
Could be. Oops. Let me see what it says in the user manual, because sometimes people use weird terminology, right? I'm getting so much wind coming through the window here. It's crazy. I don't know if you guys can hear it. It's like banging around like crazy. Pre-roll. Metronome state, on-off, pre-roll, on-off, time signature. So you can only set it to on-off. Pre-roll doesn't actually give you a setting. So there you go. It's either on or off. There's your answer. So, oops. Cross, down, and then change on or off. Yeah, that's it. By the way, while we're in here, I wanted to show Henrik the MIDI side of it. So you can see in the MIDI side, there's quite a bit here. So you can set USB and MIDI jacking for your notes in, so you can actually receive, and you can set it to a specific channel, but I've got it set to all. So let me go back to the file section. I'll open that project of mine. We'll get out of Richard Devine's amazing one and go back to my shit one, because we can. What did I want to show you? So if I go to a blank track, yeah, let's go to a blank track, set the instrument to my guitar, and now we set that as a granular. We probably don't want that as a granular. Sample playback. We just want that as a one shot.
Perhaps you should normalize it so it's a little louder.
Yeah, we should normalize it, shouldn't we? Sample editor, normalizer, select effect. Now I'm using my MIDI. I can use this also as a keyboard, or that. That's probably about right, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, let's do that, and then go back to sample playback. Now, one thing you can do with this is you can do like ping pong, and then you can do the loop start. I might want it to start there and end kind of here. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So you can kind of get some interesting effects there. So there's that side of it. Now, that's a chord, Andy. So do you know what I mean? Like if you want chords, you can sample them in that way, or you can actually record them as a single sort of oscillator sort of sound sample and then render it down into as a chord on your track. So that's kind of that. All right. So, okay, live playback is recording, is kind of like, I think you kind of do this, right? And then you go. So it's hit that note just when I hit it on my keyboard, and you can extend the length of your patterns and all that sort of stuff if that wasn't long enough. So just to sort of mute all these, that one. There it is in there. So what happened then is, because that other sample was still playing when I hit another key on the keyboard, it's automatically inserted that sample into the next track if I've got available tracks. You can stop that from doing that too if you want, but that would kind of be how it would do chords. So let's stop that and go back to the pattern editor and mute all these. And if I go to the right, there's the second note that I press. See how, because it hadn't quite finished playing the sample, it's put it over here. And you'll notice if I go down, that's when that finishes. So I could then select, there's a way to select stuff by using your cursor. And you go down like this, and then you can just do the whole column. All right, I can select the whole thing there, and then I can I forget how to do this. There's a way you can actually then render it together, and I forget how to do it, but it's a way to do it. It should actually be there. Maybe it's not working. Maybe I need to be in record mode, I don't know. So there's that. Shift. That. Not letting me. I don't know. I have to work it out. I've never actually done it, Andy. But that would be how you would do it. I would be able to merge those two tracks together. I'm not sure. I need to check the manual, but that's how you do it anyway. All right, go back to the chatties. No one's asking me any questions. Okay, fine. That's cool. Yeah. Now, okay, so why is this kind of cool for me, and where might be this cool for you guys? I don't know. Like, everyone's different. Everyone has different needs. I love samplers. It's kind of a bit romantic for me to have a tracker as an actual hardware unit. This is something that I've never ever seen before. I know that there has been a couple made before, but I've never seen them. So this is the first time I've ever had my hands on one. It's been really well done. I will show you guys this. A while back, I did a stream where I was actually showing my Amiga. And this is the tracker called Optimed that I was showing in that. So you can see just how rudimentary they were. Everyone was all crammed in. So that was me on stream number 17. So I was showing a tracker way back, like 2 years ago, or whatever it was, a year and a half ago. And you can see with this, it's, you know, it's a lot different. Anyway, so how do I get out of my shift? There we go. Right. I need to have another drink and a break, and you guys can ask questions, or the guys in the chats can ask questions. What have I forgotten? I haven't talked about audio rendering yet, or I've shown the MIDI config and I've shown the file section. Okay, so audio rendering is something that we haven't talked about. So basically, you can actually, so once you've finished that, say you did the Richard Devine one, which is a lot better than mine, and you think, wow, this is a masterpiece and I want to render this. So you've got a few options apparently. So you can do a whole song and a single track. And if you do the whole, you can choose stems, and it will do each track separately as separate WAV files. Plus it will also do your two master FX, which are reverb and delay. So it will literally do the whole lot. By the way, while you've got something plugged into line in, it will also go through as well. I was showing that. So there's your reverb delay. This is your master mix. You can actually play something through your line in while you're performing as well. So you might want to have something else plugged into that, which is, it may be a cool thing, it may not be, I don't know. Dry mix is obviously what the tracks would be. So that's in there. So that's actually pretty cool. Yeah. So I think it's a different thing. That's what I think. I guess what you guys should probably look at it as. Like, I don't know. For me, if I wanted to change this to a granular synth, that guitar thing that I did before. So how do we do that? We can change the position to about there, the length.
How long can it be, the length?
I mean, it can be longer than that probably as well. Change that to go backwards.
Ping pong is probably the best, I think.
Yeah. Change the shape to triangle. Gauss. What's Gauss do? Yeah, it's kind of like your amplitude shape, isn't it? That would just be like on off. Yeah. That'd be rising and falling, and Gaussian would be kind of like a curve, wouldn't it? Gaussian curve. But yeah, most people would use that. And then the position.
One thing, when you load samples into it, can you load samples with loops on?
Once you load samples into it, sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
Can you load samples which are looped, which has loop points?
So from another thing that's already been set? I don't know. You could reset all the loop points. So it does slicing, if that's what you're asking.
Oh, no, I mean, if you play a sample, or load a sample with loop points, it will usually loop at some point sets where it sounds good. Will it remember that if you load it?
No, because that would be metadata, depending on that particular DAW or device. But one thing I can tell you that it does do is it does do Ableton and Serum wavetable samples. So it won't do granular yet. I don't know what they've got planned on that, as far as I know anyway. But yeah.
But in a standard wave sample or AIF, it contains the data for loop points. It's not a second file.
Okay.
So if you load a wave file, a WAV, then it can contain loops. The question is, does it recognize the loop?
Easiest way to find out is you send me one, and we'll do this another time, and I'll whack it on, and I'll see if it does it. Yeah, that'll answer that question. Native VS, can we please get rid of the sample? What's wrong with my guitar sample? Yes, of course you can. You can go to sample loader, and there is a whole bunch of stuff that's in here. Actually, you probably wanted to see. So samples there. Let's go into this view again. I keep forgetting that you guys aren't seeing this. So there's a sample directory, which is preloaded, and you click enter. And then you've got, these are the artists that have given us. So Jamie Liddell's there, Lego Velt's there, Loops and Trouble, One Even FM, Plug Hugger, Simulacrum Sounds, Stasma and Concrete Collage. There's a whole bunch of wavetables. So let's check out the Jamie Liddell one. So click on enter, and he's categorized it by ambient, beats, loops. So Native VS, choose a category. And we'll wait for you to answer that, and then we'll choose a sample from in there. 10 seconds delay.
Spot now. Don't you dare say F. Oh, you have done. He's just said FM.
He just said FM. Where was that? That was back one. Okay, he wants vocal. All right, vocal. And then we've got, so you can preview all these, right? So this is Jamie. So pick one.
Which Jamie?
Yeah, which Jamie do you want? Bad mood Jamie, or that one? Let's choose that one. So you would then go to the.
Try to hold it now to see if it has a loop.
Okay.
It does.
Oh,
it does. That might answer your question.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
There we go. So it adds that to your project. Oh, it's a big one. It might just be a really big, long sample. Let's have a look at it.
Yeah.
Sample editor. Oh, yeah. That's just a big, long sample.
Yeah.
That looks quite phallic, that sample. Right. We shall... There you go. That's a different sample.
I think you need to see a doctor.
The sausage. What are you talking about? Should we? What do you guys want to do? Do you want to do like a wavetable on this, or?
No.
No.
That's not really the appropriate sample for wavetable anyway. Let's do granular. We have to go in a bit, don't we?
If you make a wavetable, can you export that wavetable so we can import it in Serum or Zebra?
I believe so. Yeah, it says it's completely compatible with Serum and Ableton, so I believe so. I haven't tried it though.
Okay.
So there is wavetables in here. Let's look at those. Sample loader, go back up here, down the bottom, wavetable, and there's a whole heap, and I don't know what they are. They're not very well named, but you can preview them. choose that one. So, and then we go into sample playback and change this to wavetable, change the position. So that's more wavetable now. So you can muck around with that. There. So I should show you there. And all you're doing is just changing your positions. It's probably not the best wavetable synth I've ever seen, to be honest. But I mean, it's there. So, you know. Anyway.
I would also like you to test if it can work as an external instrument. Like if you have a DAW and you need to play something polyphonic, like 8 tracks, if you can put 8 synths on those 8 tracks you have, and if you can use it like an external instrument.
Okay, so
Not
I can show you
the tracker, but
I have got it in Ableton now. I can show you what it shows like in Ableton. I just need to turn off Ableton. There we go. All right. So if I go to, where's it gone? There. The only thing that it shows at the moment in Ableton is the MIDI side. So it shows as a MIDI I/O. Okay, that's all it's showing.
Yes, that's what it should show.
Yeah,
because you're communicating with it via MIDI. But if you load 8 tracks of different instruments, can you play them from Ableton or keyboard like it was a synthesizer?
You can. So okay, so that. But what I've worked out though is that you can only do, I think, one at a time. So we were in here before in the MIDI config, and
but couldn't you set each track to the same MIDI channel?
You can set tracks as MIDI channels, but that's to play externally. No, you can't set a sample track to a MIDI channel. No, not that I know of. So let's have a look at a track, right? So there's a track there.
Oh,
and
there was a notes in channel in the MIDI settings.
Yes.
Notes in channel.
Yeah, so that's
set to all.
Yeah, so that you can either select all or one.
Well, okay, so the track you have selected is the one which is playing.
Yeah, so all, and that would be the MIDI channel that it listens in on. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and as before, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I was actually using the Arturia key step to play that when I was recording that little pattern before over here with the guitar. And I was doing the live record. That was done on the Arturia key step because I had it configured in Ableton. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I've got MIDI going in from the key step and then out to channel 1 on the tracker. So that was the DAW doing that for me, just to make things easier. That's about as far as I've got with it, Henrik. So in any sort of more convoluted than that, I don't know. I mean, it's not bad.
That's okay.
At the moment, we've got the that granular thing loaded, right? So we can play that now.
I heard a video at a time, saw a video where it was very ambient, and that made it attractive to me. Instead of it sounding like it did in the Amiga time. So I hope to hear more of that genre.
Yeah, I mean, look, with your tracks, you've got so each track of these things, right? You can actually set up to 128 steps in each track, and then you can have 255 patterns with 8 tracks. So there's a lot in there.
And you can play many instruments on one track.
And you can play many instruments on one track if you sample them down, rendering and things like that. So like you could go into your DAW and use, you know, some Eventide black hole reverb thing from a synth going through it, sample that, export that out, put it into your tracker, and that would literally just tail out on one of your tracks, and that could be very ambient if you wanted to. And also don't forget too, you've got your track lengths here, right? But you've also got your time. So I've got mine set up at the moment as external clock. I can change this back to internal clock, and I can change it to like a lower BPM. So there's all that stuff is in here. So yeah, you could definitely make this into an ambient thing. I've heard lots of mod track stuff that's ambient before, for sure.
Can you go through some of the effects in the unit? Reverb, delay, such.
Yeah.
Are there some shimmer reverb?
So the reverb
runs. If you take that rather nasty sort of wavetable-y sort of sound and start adding a few sort of delays and reverb on it, if you can, just to, because that would be an interesting.
I could.
That would be interesting to see how they sound.
All right, let's turn all this other shit off. Let's turn dirt off.
The moderators will censor you, Rams, if you get not careful. All that swearing.
Now, to delete that guitar thing, I just hit record and then I hit delete. I'm just going to delete the guitar out. There's a little chord I played. Take that guitar out there. All right, now we go back into double pattern tap, and we want to have okay, so that FX1 is delay send. So let's turn delay send off. There, let's turn that off. Oh, that's the wrong track. Okay, so there we go. We want to put this, you want to have this as a reverb, don't you? So there's your reverb there. Undo. And then do the same for that one. FX, reverb send. So now we can play that.
But are there any master settings or master reverb settings?
Master reverb is here. I think there is. I just don't remember where it is. Config? No. I thought it was in here somewhere. Oh, there's the reverb delay there. There you go. So you've got size. Yeah, let's make the size of this big and give it more diffusion. Let's try that.
But as I heard, the effects are something new, so I guess some updates will make more of them.
Possibly.
The first version, which was out, only had the reverb and no delay and all that, I think.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, now you've got it.
All right, let's take. I want to move that. How do I move it? I think I just have to hit E4. Note. that. Delete that. Okay. Wow, so that reverb is huge.
Yeah.
There it is there. So I can mute it. It's not muting. Okay, that doesn't work.
That may be the input for the reverb.
Yeah, you could be right.
Though there are the peak meter. I don't know.
Turn that down a bit. So it was pretty big, the reverb, definitely. Yeah. I actually never touched that before, so there you go. Just a bit of a fiddle. I mean, I think one of the things I like about this is I think it's really easy to get around. I've seen hardware samplers and they're convoluted to get around. I think this is quite easy to get around. But at the same time, I agree with a lot of other people are saying. I think it's kind of limited, right? It's not going to be an MPC. It's not going to give you the sort of guts that an MPC gives you. I don't think it's ever wanting to be that. Remember, it's only 16-bit 44.1. So they're not even trying to get into that sort of high-end pro audio sort of land with, that CD quality samples at 16-bit. It's not the greatest, right?
I think it's good.
It's good enough. It's kind of...
I think it's good. It's limited.
Yeah.
Limits can make you more creative, where if it can do millions of stuff, you never have time to be creative because you have to learn all the stuff. It's good.
Limitation's good, yeah. I agree. Yeah. I showed how you can do the microphone line in. I showed the guitar coming in on the normal line in. What I didn't show you is this has got an FM radio. Should I show you that? That's pretty cool. It's a bit like the OP1, right? So I don't know if it's going to break any sort of copyright rules or anything like that. Who cares? You got a radio, and then you literally hold down this one. Now it uses this cable here, which is your line out cable as the antenna. There you go, we've got something there. Better not do that for too long because there's that will definitely get me in trouble. But there you go. So you can actually sample the radio.
So it has FM.
Let me do this quickly.
It has FM radio.
Right. Yeah. So I've just quickly, it's terrible sounding, but I've just quickly sampled that, right? A
bit of ABBA in there too, I think. There you go. That was definitely gimme, gimme, gimme. Yeah, there we go, Swagoo.
So let's do crap from radio. This is how you name tracks, people. Crap. No.
But I would rather like if it had AM radio, shortwave radio, because FM
would be much better. Much better.
and the FM band is being killed here because of yes, it's closed down, so it will be digital everything soon. AM radio is more fun to sample too.
I'm getting used to this keyboard now.
I used to take out a little handheld radio to gigs for that reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, stink. And
then go to sample loader. And crap from radio. There we go. And then we can go to sample editor and we can play with this now.
I didn't notice, could you change the dial, the frequency while you recorded it?
I don't know. Let's try. No. Because when you're recording, it takes you off that screen. Yeah, no.
Yeah, sometimes the selection of channels is what makes it fun to sample.
Yeah. Okay, let's try this. Oh, that'll do. All right, so now we can play with this, right? Sample playback. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Granular. Length. And now play it.
Wow.
Let's do ping pong. That's cool fun. I mean, shit, you can just have fun with that, eh? It's like a toy. Oh, there was one thing I didn't show you guys on this. There was one thing. This was part of the firmware update that came out just, what was it, last week, just before Christmas? Okay, so you go to File, and you click on Games, and you can choose a game. Alter Ego, Chase, LAN, Lawnmower, Utako, or Zooming Secretary. Pick one.
Lawnmower.
Lawnmower. All right. We can play games. Now, where's Start? Would be over here somewhere, right?
Okay, I'm going to get it.
Anyway, so you can you can cut someone's grass on the Polyend Tracker as well.